I crashed my Lamborghini Gallardo. Fortunately, I'm okay, but the car is a little bit worse for wear. This was my first Lamborghini I ever bought.
Oh my days.
I never thought I'd actually get the chance to own one, and for that reason is why the car means so much to me. It's like a trophy to myself.
Oh my days.
And seeing it in this state absolutely kills me. So after the crash, I had a decision to make. Fix this car myself, or go through the insurance and take the payout. But if I took this through the insurance, they would 100% category B this car because of all of this damage, which would mean that it could never go back on the road. And for that reason alone, is why I'm choosing to repair this myself. Who would I be if I've repaired all these other crash damaged cars, but I didn't repair my own one? I just hope I'm making the right decision here, because as soon as I start touching this car and taking it apart, my insurance is completely void. That's because it has to be left the same way it was when it had the accident. But later on in the video, I find some hidden damage which needs a specialist repair. And it was up to them whether we could move any further forward with it. Is it something that you'd do? Now, because we think this car's going to be category B, it doesn't necessarily mean that the car's too dangerous to go back on the road. It just means it's almost too expensive to go back on the road, which I understand. But, and really, this doesn't make any financial sense for me to repair it anyway. I know that. I'm literally just doing it because I want this car. I'm going to take a huge loss on this, and we're taking a risk by working on it now. But to me, it's better than losing this car, and I think it's probably going to be one of the most challenging ones so far. Lesson learned, I'm never having semi-slicks on in a country where it's never dry, ever. Let's just get everything off that's broken and work out what we need to repair this. And immediately, well, look at this. This is a cat beam before we even start. Look at the chassis damage. It's completely pulled off the top rail of that. Oh, wow. Now let's get everything that's damaged off the car. Yes. Oh, do you know what? It's only damaged there and there.
And there.
Oh, yeah, and there, yeah. And then we can start a list of all the parts that we're going to need to order for the Gallardo. That's the start. I feel like I should have wrote in a smaller font. As soon as we took the arch lining out, it revealed even more frame damage. Up at the front, and then part of this frame at the back has broken off as well. I then hired up the car and checking for any damage underneath it. And it looks okay. Oh!
Oh no!
Oh. Apart from the under tray. One under tray rear. Now we've got to remove every single bolt holding that under tray on, which of course we're going to have to replace at some point. There's still so much dirt underneath this car, and it's all crammed inside the bolts. Oh, there's one more.
Oh, I called the class.
Oh dear.
Good news though, no leaks. Bloody hell.
Underside looks pretty good. No like visual damage. We're obviously gonna have to measure up this whole thing, but there's no visual damage. Question is, do I stay rear wheel drive or go four wheel?
What do you think?
That's a stupid question. Of course we stay rear wheel drive. I'm not so sure about that, but we're still a long way from making that decision. In comes Freddie to offer a helping hand with it all.
He asked us to put it back to four-wheel drive or keep it rear-wheel drive.
I think you should make it front-wheel drive.
And one final under tray off the back is removed. And to be fair, the engine and gearbox looks like it has no damage, which is good news. Oh, look what I've just seen as well. Look at that.
Jeez. 30 mile an hour?
I feel like, yeah, that's 30 miles. That might be 27.
Are you going to fix it? This is broken. Yes, how broken is it? How broken? As we reveal more and more damage, I can feel the price for repairing this thing is getting more and more expensive. There's a lot of damage to this suspension on the back left, but again, it gives us a chance to upgrade it. Okay, next thing to disconnect is this brake line. To stop the brake fluid from leaking, I think we can do this little trick. If we climb into the car and use a pole to push the brake pedal down and then wedge it on the seat rail, when we disconnect the brake lines, it should stop brake fluid from constantly dripping. First, I'm removing the handbrake cable from the handbrake caliper. Then I'm going to start by trying to remove the brake line. But the brake line felt as if it was going to snap. So instead, I decided to take the brake line from the caliper, which meant removing it and then twisting the brake line from it. Yeah. Hey! And look, no drips.
No fluid.
No fluid. It worked. There's going to be a load of fluid in that though. Good news. One brake caliper is good. Next, we're going to remove this full suspension on the rear left, whilst adding more parts to the blackboard. I'm now undoing the drive shaft bolts, which connect the drive shaft to the gearbox, and then we should be able to lift it out. Oh, yeah. Go on, Fabian. Oh, wow. There's one arm. There's one arm just holding it up. Don't drop it.
Oh, it's in there. That'll be good.
Yeah. Okay. I think we should replace all of this. So we've got suspension strut, which I think we should replace for coilovers. I think we're going to do that now. Drop link, frame, top wishbone, wheel hub. What we're saying?
That bolt's bent.
Bolt bent?
That bolt is bent.
Oh, it is. Oh yeah, look. Yay.
Okay, we should replace this whole side suspension. Back to the whiteboard. Of it. Okay? I think that covers it all.
Just about.
Is there any damage behind this? Oh.
What? Oh no. Oh my.
Oh no.
That's not good.
Is that meant to be like that?
I doubt it. If that looks like that and that looks like that, I doubt that's supposed to look like that. Oh my.
I think we've got to take the engine out. How is that even done that?
It must have literally shunted it straight up, hit there and just snapped it clean.
Yeah, do you think that, yeah, I think that's what it's done. It's.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But
This is good. So because the frame damage is here, which has somehow hit into the exhaust manifold, it looks like we're going to have to take the engine out to repair that. If we can get the frame fixed, do we put another engine in it?
V12.
A V12 in a Gallardo?
Oh my. Will that be a world's first?
I think someone's done it.
We've got an idea. We've got an idea.
This is going to cost me money.
Yeah. So, hear us out, but the engine's got to come out because of this. Come with us.
Broke that bit off as well.
Wow, you
And look at the
really
exhaust.
Good job on that. Well done.
But I've
Allegedly.
found a Lamborghini Aventador engine.
So I'm sorry, you want to make it faster than it was?
No, it might be slower.
But it'll sound cool.
It'll be slower, but it'll sound cooler. So I'll be safer. I'll be much safer with a V12 than a V10 with twin turbos.
You might be able to drive
Because
it
it will
this
sound
summer.
better, so I won't need to go as fast to hear the engine. I think it's a really good idea. Once we convinced Hannah that a V12 swap would be the most best and safest way to repair this car, I started getting excited. But then we called Ricky at RE Performance to see if it was possible, and he put a downer on it.
Problem you've got, mate, is how an Aventador works is the engine's in the middle,
Yeah.
the gearbox is at the front,
Oh, it's that way round.
so the gearbox
Oh.
is basically you're sat on it, and then the rear diff is out the back.
Oh, I thought it was the other way round on the Aventadors.
No.
So because the V12 engines sit a completely different way round to the V10s, it looks like it's going to be too much work. Maybe I was a little ambitious. So for now it looks like we're sticking with the twin turbo V10 engine. That's even if this thing can be repaired. We've got to strip it apart even further now.
You can't break it more than it is.
I know, I'm trying.
Yank it.
You almost got Jerry.
The never-ending list is growing bigger on the chalkboard. Freddie's taking out the engine covers and then disconnecting the wiring to the engine cover wiring loom. After that, we'll then be able to undo the bolts for the engine cover or the boot, and we should be able to lift it off. Another thing that needs replacing.
Yes.
Now we have a much better look at the inside of the engine bay. Off with the rear right light, and with all that out, we can inspect for more damage.
Got it.
That, at the back, so far, without taking the engine out, I think we've uncovered most of the damage.
What? How are you that confident that you can say that?
I think it looks great. Before we start taking the engine out, which we know we're going to have to do, there's more damage to the front, so we're going to have to uncover a lot of the stuff at the front.
Tony's back.
Matthew,
Hello.
this is called a wheel getter offer.
Yeah, man.
Good news and bad news. This part here, look, this part of the frame, it bolts on up there. So, bad news is it's broken, but good news is that it can bolt off to be replaced. More bad news.
Oh, that is bad news.
Yeah, that's very bad news, isn't it?
Does that bolt off, or is that?
What, this?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay, that is bad news.
Oh, that is very bad news, actually. It's a similar story on the front of the car than it is to the rear. Stripping apart all of this suspension. That way we can see what exactly the damage is to the frame. First off is the track rod end. Lambo! Once that's off, I can disconnect the bolt which holds the suspension strut at the top to the frame, which isn't looking too good. Then undo the bolt which holds the drop link to the suspension, and lift it all out. Easy as that.
So,
Do you know what as well? All of these parts already are probably going to total up to way more than half of the car's worth. So it's not plus our labour and everything. So it's not financially viable to actually even repair this car. But also, do you know there's a lot of people that have like children, but then that doesn't make financial sense either. You don't have a children to make profit.
Definitely not.
Like, this is my child, so it's not.
Is it?
Yeah, this is my child, so it shouldn't matter whether it makes financial sense or not. It's because it's my child, I'm doing it. See, it makes sense. See, don't that make sense?
No, I reckon we should put it all back together and call the insurance.
Off with the front bumper, which is no longer usable, and then the front crash bar.
Big moment.
My dad's now adding parts to the chalkboard, and after that I can lower it back down and open the bonnet. This frame is pretty bad. But to get a better look, the bonnet's got to come off. Disconnecting the washer pipe which connects to the washer jets, unbolt the bonnet from the hinges, and me and my dad can lift it off the car. Which doesn't make this framework look any better. My dad's taken off now both wiper blades so we can remove the plastic surround around the windshield. Then I'm trying to pull away the plastic tub which is used for the storage on the car. And once that's out, we can get a much better look at the damage to the frame. The aluminium, what happens, it looks really bad. It is bad, but look how soft aluminium is. It's got all these little like zones here which crumple, but you can just bend aluminium. It's so easy to bend. So you only have to hit it a tiny bit and the whole thing just squashes up. But it's sort of acted as like a bubble wrap around me. So in one way it's safe, in another way it's a nightmare to fix because aluminium bends so easy. So we've got to work out a way how we're going to fix all of this. And with aluminium you can't use a regular welder, so we've got to work out where we're going to take it from, and if we're going to weld on a front frame we've got to make sure it's exactly in the same spot. Now, because of how bad this framework is, and the fact it's aluminium, and the fact we have no experience in repairing this at all, we've called a specialist in to come and inspect the car to make sure it is actually repairable. But in order for him to inspect it, we've got to strip all the parts around the frame so we can get a good look at it. So that's exactly what we're doing now. I'm taking apart the passenger side headlight, which is unfortunately damaged. And my dad's taking off the frame, which actually bolts off. Next, we're underneath the car, taking off the broken under tray, which then revealed this. A broken radiator, which is actually an aftermarket one, which is used to cool the turbos. After that, I'm climbing inside the car so we can go down into the footwell to unscrew the bolt which disconnects the steering column to the steering rack, because we've got to remove the whole steering rack from the car.
Steering rack off and off the column there.
Then we can go back outside and slide the steering rack out of the frame, which leaves us with this. Next step, which we're going to have to do anyway, is remove the engine because of that dent in the exhaust manifold. That's going to need to be replaced. And also, we need to see if there's any more damage to the frame here as well. And if the frame is repairable, we're going to have to remove the engine anyway to weld in that piece down there. And I think it also, when we hopefully rebuild this, gives us options to make it cooler inside. Like when we get it out, maybe do the engine bay a different colour to the colour of the car that we're going to do. So first things first, turbo kit off. Go. Right now, I'm disconnecting the oil return pipe from one of the turbos. At first, it didn't look like there was much oil in there, but slowly it started coming out. And my dad's doing the same on the other side. Then I could disconnect the hose, connected it to the charge coolers, and the hose connected to the blow-off valve as well. And that's one turbo and exhaust off. And my dad got the other turbo and exhaust off, which leaves us with this. Because all of this is aftermarket and there's no manuals for it, I'm making sure I mark up and label all the lines that I disconnect because there's no way of me knowing how these went back together. I'm then going to disconnect the hoses which go to the charge coolers. The ones on top here use a C-clip and then you can pull the connection off. And then I'll be able to take away one of the charge coolers. And my dad takes away the other one. Then I'm going to work away at trying to get the engine strut brace out of the car. First off comes this aftermarket tray. And then once we unbolted it, we can take the strut brace out, which is actually broken. Another thing we're going to need to replace. Now there's a lot of aftermarket parts which make this turbo kit work, including wiring and hoses, all of which I've got to disconnect and remember exactly where it went back. And this part is just one of them. We've got all the aftermarket stuff off. Left to do the usual stuff on the engine. Everything that connects the engine to the car, we've got to disconnect. Water hoses.
Electrics. Engine mounts.
Engine mounts, yeah.
Fuel.
Yeah! The worst thing is that this is all Cyvex ECU, so the standard ECUs are gone. So we've got all aftermarket ECU, all aftermarket wiring, which I didn't do, and I don't know where it went or what it does, and I don't want to break it because it was really expensive. £10,000 for Cyvex.
Just for the ECU?
Yeah, just for the ECU, doing the wiring.
Oh my God.
10,000. And I think that was special price.
Special price?
That's special price.
What is it retail? 20?
Yeah, I think like 400. So first lot of fluid out is the coolant. I'm taking the hoses off the coolant reservoir and then I can pull the coolant reservoir out the way, or the expansion tank as some people call it. Then we're going to go underneath the car and disconnect the hoses which go from the engine to the metal hoses which run underneath the car. Go! I'm not sure this is how Lamborghini do it. Yeah! And that's the coolant done. After that, it's the oil. So, the oil isn't in the sump, it's in a tank on this.
Tony,
Yeah.
what's your favourite fluid?
My favourite fluid,
Yeah.
other than stuff that goes in engines.
Yeah.
Y food.
Y food?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a new flavour in there. I don't actually know if it's new, but it's new to us.
Yeah, should we try it?
Go get it. Meanwhile, whilst they went to get the new flavour, I started disconnecting the lines off the oil tank.
Caramel popcorn.
Yeah. Is this it?
Yeah, look at that.
Caramel popcorn.
With the top line disconnected off the oil tank, I can wiggle it slightly free, but I've got to go underneath to disconnect the bottom one. That's a meal replacement drink. It replaces one meal, so we don't have to eat now at lunch because we've got all the vitamins and minerals, precisely 26, inside that. 500 calories as well, and it'll keep us full up to our next meal. And now I've gone underneath the car to disconnect the final oil line to the oil tank. After that, I should be able to remove it.
Now, the great thing about Y food is there's a massive selection of flavours. What we got here? We've got creamy cookie.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, you want this?
And it's actually Y Food's birthday at the minute.
Is it?
Yeah. Is it your birthday as
How
well?
old are they?
Not as old as you.
So we celebrated by lighting a makeshift candle in the Y Food. As a birthday treat, they've done 20% off for all you guys. If you want to try Y Food, try and find your favourite flavour with a taster pack with a link in the description and the 20% discount code appearing underneath me right now. Cheers, Y Food. Oil out now. Next fluid is... Are we going to do gearbox oil? Gearbox oil. Gearbox oil. Next. So this gearbox is a manual gearbox. It's the same as in the manual Gallardos, but they are like hydraulically controlled with electronics. So it uses hydraulic pressure to select which gear, which makes it. I quite like the e-gear. I think it's fun. It slams the gears, but it does wear the clutch out. I think your clutch is expected to last between 5 to 10,000 miles. I've already gone through one. So I do like it. I'm umming about doing a manual swap. With a manual swap, it means that we have to change all of this, put in an extra pedal underneath the dashboards, which would probably mean dashboard out, and a gear selector and all sorts. So it's a big job to change it to manual. And then also 1,000 horsepower with a manual selector would probably be a bit crazy. So I reckon I'm going to stick to e-gear, but it is difficult. So now we've got to take off all these hydraulic lines, which are connecting it to the box. Actually, the only line we need to disconnect is the line which feeds the gearbox oil, which is this one here. And then it's out. Gearbox fluid out. After that, we're moving on to the fuel, and there's only one hose which feeds the fuel lines. So I'm going to disconnect that, and then we moved on to the power steering fluid, and we disconnected that hose. Then to the aircon, and all the gas was already released when I hit the tree. Aircon out. Next up, electrics. Remember, this car is on aftermarket ECUs. There's one ECU for the left side of the engine and one for the right side. Instead of disconnecting every single plug which goes to the sensors on the engine, we're just going to unplug the big connectors on the ECUs and pull the engine with all the wiring connected to it away from the car. But to do so, I've got to climb inside the car so I can access the wiring that goes in there. So all the wiring goes to this box here, an ECU here, and another ECU over there, but I've literally got no room in here. There is zero. You can't even put the seats all the way forward because it just hits the sunroof, that thing, whatever that is. Because the car's in the 2-post ramp, I can't really get the doors open of the car very wide, which means I can't remove the seat. So I'm working in such a tight space here. I've got to unplug every single relay for the engine and disconnect it from the bottom of those connections, and then the same with the fuses as well. And after that, we'll have a huge wiring loom, which we've got to slide through the back firewall into the engine bay. I just really hope we know how to put this all back together. Once that's all slotted through that hole, you can see the amount of wires that this engine needs to run, and it's a lot. Okay, that is the wiring out. That is ridiculous. Last thing holding it in, the most important thing, engine mounts. Look, 1, 2, and then another 1, 2 on the other side. 2.
The engine will fall out now.
Oh, I think the engine moved. To lift the engine out, we've got to tie the straps to the engine and then get the engine crane to pull it out. I think the Gallardo engine is designed to be lifted up straight out of the engine bay, because pulling it out this way, the engine bay was getting tighter the further back we went.
Come on!
But eventually, we got it out.
That's out! It's out!
Yeah! Yes! Oh my god! That is not the way how to take out a V10. It would have been easier on that 2-post. Well, good news is all this frame looks okay. This all bolts off anyway from the chassis, but all of this looks good. Now we can access this bottom weld here, like this bit to go in there, if that can be welded in. All we've got to do now is take measurements of everything and make sure everything is straight, but I'm like just looking at it, there's nothing which looks obviously that bad apart. I think the quarter and everything else took the majority of the hit. This nice big square dent here, and to get the exhaust manifold off, that is, I mean, it looks even difficult with the engine out. How the hell? The bolts for this are, they're somewhere deep in there. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but that's got to come off. And maybe we could upgrade it to 4-to-1 headers as well, which will get a better sound, probably more boost as well, which I don't know if is a good idea. Now the engine's out, we can see the full extent of the damage, not only to the engine, but also to the frame. And this list seems never ending. But the thing we've been wanting to know as if this frame is actually repairable. But earlier, I had some specialists come and look at the car. So we've got Bob and Del from the machine shop, and well, I don't know too much about how much they can actually repair, but they sound pretty confident. But I don't know, for me, I don't know. They haven't seen the front of the car yet. So at the back, there's just like a bar missing out of here. It's just like a little bar. There's nothing to... I was showing the guys around the car, showing the damage at the back end and all the damage at the front. Both of these guys are pretty knowledgeable when it comes to these type of repairs.
What we'll do is measure from that bolt hole back to that plate and make sure it's the same on both.
Wicked. But as the guys mentioned, this type of repair isn't done very often anymore. The car's just normally disposed of because of the cost and the labour involved to do it. So would they even take on this? Other than that, it's a big job. But I just want to know whether you can do it. Is it something that you'd do? Yeah? Come on, that's what we want. No way he's going to one bang it.
He's going to one bang it.
Not a chance.
I believe. Come on, Dad.
That's one bang just gone there, by the way. So this is two bang.
Oh.
Oh, wait, that's two bang. One bang it. That's three bang. No, I told you.
Like a drug that I just can't deny.